these walls I've seen the light of love pure and divine. Helps me remember who I really am. In every face it's clear, we're all God's children here. And it feels like home, it feels like home. I finally found a place where I belong. It feels like home, it feels like home. A family that I can call my own. It feels like home. It's a place to share your burden. It's safe to shed a tear. Say a prayer and raise your voice in song. Every heart is honored and every path is true. No one's here to judge you right or wrong. And there's no shame, no sin in this place where love begins. And it feels like home, it feels like home. I finally found a place where I belong. It feels like home, it feels like home. A family that I can call my own. It feels like home.
Please join me for a moment's reflection. A slow, deep breath helps us shift, helps us arrive and relax and connect heart and mind. We gather for many reasons on Sunday. Here together, we create a safe haven for ourselves and for each other. Matthew often sings the "Come as you are" refrain, and that message is real here. As I do that, as you do that, we create a place of belonging. Each person is recognized as a divine expression of an infinite whole. We can feel the warmth of that here. We come to renew hope. It's not the childish hope of wishful thinking, but hope that guides. Think of a lighthouse on a foggy shoreline. As I release my attachment to specific outcome, I can refocus on positive possibilities. I become a possibilitarian, and hope lifts me up. We come to remember our own deep desire to be love, to be creative expression. As I open to these spiritual qualities, I expand. When I put my love and creativity with yours, we expand again. We empower ourselves. We empower one another through our cooperative efforts. We do good work here together. Today we celebrate belonging, hope, and empowerment. We are grateful to bring good works into our lives and into our world. And so it is.
It feels like home. It feels like home. I finally found a place where I belong. It feels like home. It feels like home. A family that I can call my own. It feels like home. It feels like home. I finally found a place where I belong. It feels like home. It feels like home.
I will not die an unlived life. I will not live in fear of falling or catching fire. I choose to inhabit my days, to allow my living to open me, to make me less afraid, more accessible, to loosen my heart until it becomes a wing, a torch, a promise. I choose to risk my significance, to live so that which came to me as a seed goes to the next as a blossom. That which came to me as a blossom goes on as a fruit.
I am a child of the living God, made in the image of perfect love. All that I am, all I've been given to you, my God, I surrender. I surrender. I am a child of the living God, made in the image of perfect love. All that I am, all I've been given to you, my God, I surrender. I surrender.
Good morning. So in June, our little ones, the 7 to 11-year-olds, have a kids camp that they go to every summer. And that is a YOU, or the high school, it's a service project. Next week is our high schoolers, a couple of our high schoolers are going to the kids camp counselor training because they will be in charge of kids camp in June. And I just want to wish Nick, he's on platform today and he will be leaving next week to go to do that. So if you will help send a blessing for all those from the region going down to Portland to be part of this really awesome opportunity. And our little ones in June are going to have an amazing experience. So thank you. And let's do our blessing. I'll count us off. 1, 2, 3. We love you. We bless you. We appreciate you. We acknowledge the Christ-like that you are. Amen.
All that I am, all I've been given to you, my God, I surrender.
Thank you, Stacy Bailey, for all your good works, you and your team, on behalf of Unity in Lynnwood's youth. Well, good morning. I'm very glad to see you here. I'm very glad we are all here this morning. This is a place where we simply welcome you as you are. We don't have a dress code. We don't have special criteria for showing up. We have no expectations about where you've been or where you're going to on your journey. We welcome all explorers. I've really enjoyed hearing many stories of the journeying among the folks in this community. We're a diverse group of people, and we strive to allow our differences to enrich and inform us, never to keep us apart. I'm going to mention grief this morning, not because it's especially popular as a topic, but because it's a part of life and because our community's been a little hard hit. In February, of course, our February was punctuated by 2 deaths and 2 memorials, and we have another memorial coming up next weekend. Some people who have some people who have known Unity much longer than I have told me that, in Unity, we haven't been so much inclined to talk about sadness and loss, all those painful emotions. But linking to our invitation to come as you are, of course you are welcome here, even when you are hurting for some reason. As Nina suggested at our Wednesday service, there's no such thing as a positive or a negative emotion. They're just different levels of vibrating energy, low and slow or high and fast. We can work with these energies in many ways. Unity in Lynnwood is a come as you are place, and we mean that. I don't know if you've heard the old adage, grief triggers grief. I've observed this to be quite true. Maybe you've observed it or experienced it. While we usually get better at working with our griefs as time passes, losses do accumulate over time. I've been reminded this week in a very helpful way of something that I'm going to start calling the golden mantra, and it sounds like this: self-care, self-care, self-care. So, this morning I thought it would be worth saying that while we intentionally strive to care for one another, let's not forget that we really have to care for ourselves with the very same sincere, thoughtful kindness and compassion. Sometimes it's even harder, I think. Today is the first Sunday of the month. We recognize the efforts of our volunteers on this day, and I want to invite Michelle Van Eyck to the platform. Thank you, Michelle.
Good morning. Last month, Reverend Nina shared with you that we share the platform every other month with small groups and volunteerism. In the back of the at the back in the Welcome Information Station, you'll find the stunning brochure on volunteerism that shows all of the volunteer programs that we have here. And in the support of this beautiful brochure, I would like to share with you a new idea that I am bringing to life called A Day in the Life of a Volunteer. I'm going to bring this idea to life by every other month. I will be featuring one of our volunteer programs where we will venture into what a day in the life looks like for a particular volunteer. Today we will venture into the Welcome Ministry. Judy Hastings, please come up and join me. And she will bring you through her day as being a member of the Welcome Ministry.
Thank you, Michelle. Did it ever turn on? It was fun having you follow me around so you guys can get a glimpse into my day. There it goes. First off, we prepare the room by refilling the back with the cards. Then we prepare for silent meditation. After that, we open the doors and start welcoming everybody in. This is my favorite part. But it's really difficult today with the no hugging thing we're doing. We need to let the kids out so that they can have the rest of their day. I love their energy. Now, we like to know how many people are here. So I go up into the balcony and literally count heads. If you feel like someone's watching over you, there is. Then it's time for collection. Thank you very much. And often we have flyers or cards to hand out, and then wishing everyone a wonderful week. So that's a little glimpse into the day in the life of a Welcome Team member. And we can always use
more people in our group, so please come and join us.
Thank you, Judith and Michelle. It's fun to get a glimpse. Well, prayer is a tool in unity. We talk about it every time we're together. It's a wonderful way to approach that business about good self-care. It's defined broadly at Unity in Lynnwood, and my practice might look quite different from your prayer practice. It could be walking prayer or journaling prayer or knitting prayer or meditation. It may include detailed spoken or written denials and affirmations. I thought this quote by Charles Fillmore, who is a Unity co-founder, captures the spirit of prayer. He said, when we commune with the Spirit within and ask for and open to new ideas, they are always forthcoming. I think it was just 2 weeks ago, Ken Urie was up here on platform, and he used a couple of words in a way that just stuck with me. He said, we come here often to shift and to lift, and maybe that caught your attention too. Shift and lift, and I thought kind of like, bingo, yeah, that's exactly what happens to me when I come here. And when I got home the next day, I said, okay, so how do I do that at home? And what I've watched myself do this week is use some of these things I mentioned, my walking prayer, journaling, knitting, meditation, in ways that shift and lift. Our prayer chaplains work on our behalf to support us with prayer throughout the week. They're a great resource for support with personal prayer or to pray over any joys or concerns we might like to share with them. The most personal form of prayer, of course, is individual prayer, and if you would enjoy that, just come up to the front of the sanctuary at the end of the service, and someone will be here to meet with you. During the week, our prayer chaplains also then pray over written prayer requests, those that are phoned into our confidential prayer line, or those that are left on our website at unityinlynnwood.org. And also, if you have an app on your smartphone, a Unity in Lynnwood app, you can leave a prayer there as well. It's so that you can find your way to a prayer chaplain. Could I ask the people that are here in service for second service today just to stand, and we will be able to recognize you. Thank you. Each week, we share together a denial and an affirmation. Denials help us shift away from limiting thoughts and beliefs and lift ourselves into possibility thinking, so we too can become possibilitarians. You'll see today's denial and affirmation on the screen behind me, and I will say it out loud and then invite you to stand if that works for you, and we'll say it together. I erect this day not upon the shifting sands of falsehood, but upon the resolute rock of truth. Please stand. Ready. I erect this day not upon the shifting sands of falsehood, but upon the resolute rock of truth. Thank you. And I'm going to have you sit down, which is a deviation from our norm. Just for a minute, there has been a request to spend a moment's thought on communicable diseases. So we're going to do that for just a sec. And I'm going to frame it because I picked up what for me was hopeful news this morning as I read a Seattle Times morning brief that said, there's so much we don't know yet about coronavirus, but one thing the Seattle Times reported this morning, and I trust them as a source, it appears that about 80% of the time when someone contracts coronavirus, it will not lead to a serious illness or hospitalization. And that was the most comforting words I think I'd heard. So I want to share those out to begin with. We often we have for some time offered options in terms of greeting here, but as you can tell from the volunteer video, we're huggers around here. And let me tell you, from first service, asking us to change it up, it's gonna be hard. So, we're going to suggest that we practice today something that is not hugging, as a way of just extending our warmth and our affection for one another. So there have already been a variety of options that have been suggested. Namaste bow is always a great one to go to. This is also nice. Someone suggested head and heart gesture. And it goes on from there. Elbow bumps and you name it. But it's hard. Let me warn you, it's hard. And I watch people struggle. So we're going to practice in a minute. I also want to let you know that the platform assistant team does have its own medical advisory team. That happens to be Barbara Thorpe. Thank you, Barbara, who is the head of our prayer ministry and a retired nurse. So let's just pause to get those few reminders under our belt. If we're coughing during this season, really try to remember to cough in an elbow or to your shoulder. Same with sneezing. Try to avoid touching our faces, our noses. Washing hands often is important, and for 20 seconds, which may be a little longer than some of us do that routinely. Alcohol gel can be helpful when we forget and use our hands to cover a cough or a sneeze. And again, I'm bringing in the golden mantra: self-care, self-care, self-care. This is a great time to be taking care of ourselves, getting enough rest, eating right. Always at Unity in Lynnwood, we're looking for that sweet spot between being loving and being wise. And that's a tricky one, but that will guide us through our next steps. So let's try one of our new greetings. Good luck.
Everybody, get up on your feet. See the light in everybody you meet. Everybody, get up on your feet. See the light in everybody you meet. Let us be reminded of who we've come to be. We are love, we are one big family. Hey, hey, yeah, yeah. Hey, 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 yeah, yeah. Everybody, get up on your feet. See the light in everybody you meet. Everybody, get up on your feet. See the light in everybody you meet. Let us be reminded of who we've come to be. We are love, we are one big family. Hey, hey, yeah, yeah. Hey, 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 yeah, yeah. O God, from whom the breath of life comes, who fills all heaven and earth, may your light shine within us. May we know you're not separate from us. May we feel you in our hearts. Let your will come true. Let us love like you. Thanks for your forgiveness. us. May we forgive ourselves and others too. Thank you for guiding our steps while we're here. May we walk in love, not fear. When we listen, your message is clear. The kingdom of heaven is here. The kingdom of heaven is here. The kingdom of heaven is here.
Thank you. Bev Templin. Thank you.
Good morning, Unity in Lynnwood. Happy to see you. Thank you, Linda. Oh. The many offerings of your small group ministry appear on the Jumbotron behind me. They are available to you for the simple price of showing up. I would like to highlight a new group. Unity in Lynnwood now has a social group. Its first gathering will be a wine tasting class at Total Wines in Lynnwood on March 28th, and I can hear you thinking already, may I be a part of the women's group and a part of the third act group and a part of the social group? And of course the answer, no. No, of course, absolutely, you may be a part of any and all. Please grab a Lent 2020 booklet as you peruse the many consciously sourced items of inspiration and education offered in Unity in Lynnwood's gift shop. Everybody knows you're supposed to give up something for a Lent. And if you're like me, the first thing that comes to mind is, yes, it is chocolate. Now, that's not particularly because chocolate is a big deal to me. For me to give up chocolate would be tantamount to my giving up Nicolas Cage movies or Glamour magazine or Okra. You see, it's just not that big of a deal. Kind of a non-issue. The first thing that comes to mind is chocolate because I'm giving up chocolate for Lent has become nothing less than a predictable mantra falling every March from the mouths of pseudo-spiritual people. Now, if you want it to matter to me, tell me that I have to give up coffee. Or if you want it to matter to me, tell me that I have to give up shoes. Or if you want it to matter to me, tell me that I have to give up social media, and I know I'm in good company on that one. Statistically speaking, even in the few short minutes of this lesson, my words have been tweeted, my face has been posted, and my presentation has been rated between 9 and 13 times. Even in the few short minutes of this lesson, at least 16 of you have identified your location, acknowledged family birthdays, celebrated friend anniversaries, disclosed your moods, and shared photos of your breakfast. No longer does humanity have to trudge from farm to farm, flashing sketches of toasted bread topped with avocado and microgreens. And for many of us, this season carries overtones that go something like this. We give up something for Lent because we're guilty. So from grief to communicable disease to guilt, welcome to Unity in Lynnwood. Have a happy day. And so it is that I would launch the Lenten season by inviting you to consider that original sin is but one later construct of a patriarchal political machine in which power and politic and piety were bound one to the other. Original sin is antagonistic to the tone of the Judeo-Christian tradition and to common sense itself. You were not born tainted and tossed upon some obstacle course of sensory temptation that you might struggle and strain to regain God's favor before you die. You do not have to earn God any more than the fish has to earn the water within which it floats. You do not have to earn God any more than the bird has to earn the air upon which it soars. You do not have to be better for God. You do not have to be more for God. You do not have to be holier for God. You have to be available. The water says, I've been here all along. Now float. The air says, I've been here all along. Now soar. And God says, I've been here all along. Be. There is a ground of all beingness and possibility. We call that ground of all beingness and possibility God. You are of it because it can be no other way, and it is of you because it can be no other way. In this light, the heretical and arrogant thought isn't that the ground of all being and possibility would include everyone. The heretical and arrogant thought is that the ground of all beingness and possibility would exclude anyone. In a more traditional setting, I might say it this way. I might say that God has loved you since before you knew yourself to be you, and that this has never changed. This never will change. This never can change. I might say that God has a refrigerator door, and that your picture hangs right in the middle of it, tucked between shots of Hank Aaron, Mother Teresa, Gandhi, Bach, and Buddha. Nor did Jesus die some 2,000 years ago because of something you did wrong today. Jesus died some 2,000 years ago because his kingdom of heaven stood in sharp tension with the kingdom of Caesar, a social order which purchased security for the powerful few at an ever-increasing cost imposed upon the marginalized many. Substitutionary sacrifice is yet another later construct of that patriarchal political machine in which power and politic and piety were bound one to the other. And for many of us, this season carries overtones that go something like this. We give up something for Lent because we're flawed. And so it is that I would launch the Lenten season by inviting you to consider that your incarnation isn't tantamount to your having fallen from God. God, again, not a moody man on a distant cloud, but the ground of all beingness and possibility, has never been withheld from you, will never be withheld from you, can never be withheld from you. And yet, in this popular Western belief that we are flawed, we glorify the lowest within us despite the grandest within us. We've become like the proverbial circus elephant who spends his life walking in circles around a spindly peg because he has come to believe not in the power of his massive leg, but in that thin string that dangles around it. We continue to glorify the lowest within us despite the grandest within us, when the very soul of us would have us glorify the grandest within us despite the lowest. Great souls are not great souls because they are pious and perfect. You see, great souls are great souls because they are ostentatious and audacious. Look around. Lives of incredible beauty and light, lives of irrefutable evolution and transformation have been lived by wildly imperfect people. From George Washington to Billie Holiday to Malcolm X, their contributions to our world weren't born of their perfection, but of their audacity. Their contributions to our world arose because they glorified the grandest within them despite the lowest. I have to admit, while I've never been privileged to walk with my Catholic brothers and sisters, I've always been fascinated with the sacrament of confession. I mean, it seems like it would feel so good just to own it, just to speak it, just to name it at those moments that the lowest within me comes out to play. I find myself wondering what a unity confessional might look like. I mean, I agree that it would feel good to be let off the hook from time to time, but maybe in a unity confessional, we would recognize that we're the only ones who put ourselves on that hook in the first place. And I agree that it would feel good to be absolved from time to time, but maybe in a unity confessional, we would recognize that we're the only ones who issued the condemnation in the first place. In the end, if you want to give up chocolate for Lent, give it up. But let the encouragement of this morning be that you do so not for a humanity that would be pressed down and pulled apart, but for a humanity that would be lifted up and called together. To paraphrase Bishop John Shelby Spong, while humanity has spent the past 2,000 years looking backward and exploring the notion that the divine would express as human, humanity must now spend the next 2,000 years looking forward and accepting the dictate that the human would express as divine. Or as I like to say, while humanity has spent the past 2,000 years building steeples pointing to transcendent gods in distant geographies, humanity has to spend the next 2,000 years inverting those same steeples that they might remind each of us of an immanent God which so longs to be realized and energized through human hands and human hearts. She's one of my teachers. She's one of my friends, and several weeks ago I asked her to share this Sunday with me, this first Sunday in March, for it is indeed on the first day of March 2020 that your 80% associate minister became a 100% associate minister. You may thank your board of trustees for the fact that you now have a full-time associate minister. Her name is Reverend Nina Clark.
I didn't know you could dance like that.
Yeah, there's a lot you don't know.
Oh, possibilitarian. I love that. So when Dr. Richard asked me to share that platform with you this Sunday, my first thought was, yes, wow, of course. What an honor to share the platform with this man. Oh my God. And my second thought was, yikes. Because I don't have a whole lot of experience with Lent. I was raised a Unitarian, and the minister at the church of my youth was an atheist. and I have my most vivid childhood memories at church were of dreidels, not of creches. And when Easter came to our church, it came in the form of a very large white rabbit. So the most I knew about Lent was that people gave up something for it. So after the invitation, I knew I was going to have to do a little homework. So what I learned is that the Bible does not reference Lent. It is something that was created, some say sometime after 313 CE, with the purpose of providing Christians with a time of reflection and preparation prior to Easter. It is a time marked by fasting, both from food and for some festivities, and for some doing penance. It is increasingly common for Christians to give up something, often a luxury, sometimes a bad habit, during Lent. And much of what I read went something like this. During the 40 days of Lent, you can do something to better yourself and the world around you. A Lenten fast doesn't have to consist of just fasting and abstinence from things we love, but it can be adding things during the season that will make our lives more meaningful. I even found sites with lists of suggested things to give up, like gossiping, 10 things to give up for Lent. Gossiping, complaining, soda pop, television, eating out, and adding in things like working out, more prayer time, and volunteering. It seemed to me to be kind of similar to, at least the way that these websites presented it, kind of more similar to a New Year's resolution and lasting about as long. And if you're lucky. And reading about these practices really left me feeling rather unsatisfied. I mean, isn't not gossiping something that we should do all the time? Not just during Lent? Why stop for just 40 days? If we feel like volunteering or prayer time would add value to our lives, shouldn't we be doing it anyway? Not just for the 40 days before Easter? And so, as I pondered Dr. Richard's question to me for today, on this first Sunday of Lent, which was, what is the most important thing to let go? I decided to dig a little deeper for something that would give the season of Lent some depth for me. And although we use Jesus' 40 days in the desert as the template for our Lenten practice, we should recall that Jesus used his 40 days as preparation for his ministry. For him, it wasn't about giving up ice cream. He was doing some profound spiritual work. It wasn't just about fasting from food, although he did that. It was about digging deep. He was creating bedrock for his ministry, getting clear on what he stood for, looking his potential weaknesses in the eye, and choosing that he would rise above them and how he would do so. It was about getting teeth in his faith. It was about getting clear on what he knew to be true and releasing anything that would prevent him from expressing as his full God self. I think that we are called to the same depth of introspection during Lent, but instead of, or perhaps in addition to, focusing on Jesus' experience in the desert, we are to reflect deeply on the events leading up to and including Jesus' crucifixion by Rome. In other words, while we use Jesus' 40 days in the desert as a template for our Lenten practice, we should consider using the Passion as the roadmap for our introspection. A.J. Levine, who's a Jewish professor of New Testament and Jewish studies at Vanderbilt Divinity School, writes, "During Lent, you have the opportunity to think about your life alongside the life of Jesus, inviting inward transformation and then outward action." And the period of time that she's referring to as being alongside of Jesus, alongside the life of Jesus, is that time referred to as the Passion. AJ tells us that Lent is a time of personal introspection. Jesus is about to give up his life. We face death alongside of Jesus as we walk his story with him. And if we are to let his story and his message grow us, it behooves us to ask the hard questions. What do we stand for? What do we believe in? When do we stand up for those beliefs? Watching the disciples, we can ask ourselves, when have we betrayed someone or ourselves? When did we fall asleep instead of acting? What should we have done that we didn't do? What risks should we have taken that we didn't? When did we stand in our truth and when did we not? Where could we have reconciled but did not? And these questions aren't meant to diminish us, but to invite us into a better version of ourselves. AJ's book, Entering the Passion of Jesus, tells us that the story of the Passion is one of risk-taking. Our stories are ones of risk. The risk that it takes emotionally, psychologically, and sometimes physically to step into our full spiritual potential, to do the work that it takes to get there, to do the right thing, the congruent thing, the thing with the highest integrity and authenticity, and that those are worthwhile things that are worth the work and worth the risk. And so in my humble opinion, Lent is not about giving up chocolate or wine or bad words or gossiping or adding do-good things to our 40-day to-do list. Not that any of those things are not good things to do. I personally think that not gossiping and eating healthy are very admirable things to do. I just believe that Lent is about deep introspection. Lent is about taking the risk and going for deep change. Lent is about creating the opportunity for our own personal resurrection. Lent is about asking the hard questions and answering them. Are we taking the risk of being authentic and vulnerable? Are we standing in our truth? And if not, why not? Are we looking at the world around us and asking, what within me lets this be so, whether I like what I see or whether I don't? This is the message, or one of the messages, the Passion story holds for us. And these questions bring me back to the question that was initially posed to me by Dr. Richard. What is the most important thing to let go? And I have to answer that I can't answer that for you, but I can perhaps point the way. I believe that the most important thing to let go of is fear. The words "fear not" appear often in the Bible, some say over 200 times, and with good reason. I believe that fear is at the root of most of what keeps us from being our fullest, best, most creative selves, from showing up as bold and daring love. Fear of being wrong, fear of being hurt, fear of looking foolish, fear of being different, fear of falling short, fear of loss, of not being loved or lovable, fear of not being good enough. So I think the most important thing to let go of is that which makes us feel and act small, that which stops us from being authentic or vulnerable, that which makes us look away, that which causes us to be arrogant, that which would cause us to betray who we are or what we stand for, or betray a friend. that which lets us turn a blind eye to injustice or tell a lie, that which allows us to let ourselves down again and again and again, that which keeps us from keeping our word, that which limits our compassion, that which stops us from welcoming a stranger or coming to the aid of someone who's being harassed, that which stops us from having a healthy boundary, that which closes our ears and squeezes our hearts so that we don't truly listen to one another, that which stops us from putting down an old story that no longer serves us, that which would keep us from taking honest stock of who we are and what we stand for, that which would stop us from seeing ourselves as emanations of the divine, that which stops us from being all that we can be, that which stops us from following the charge of Yeshua ben Joseph, to know the truth of ourselves and live that truth, to be in integrity, to love one another and act like it, to be authentic, to hold ourselves to the highest standard. It is likely the same thing underlying all that stops us from shining our full and brightest light, fear. And that is the most important thing to let go. So in this season of Lent, I invite you to ask the hard questions. Hold up the mirror. Deepen your walk with the God of your understanding, and get to know yourself a little better by walking the story of Jesus' passion with him. And as you pave the way to pass through the narrow gate that Jesus told us leads to life, may you shed some of the fear that keeps you from living as boldly and bravely as you came here to live. So if you'd like to join me in meditation, just plant both feet on the floor and take a deep breath. Breathe in to this season of Lent. Breathe into the oneness that is the truth of who you are, that oneness that Dr. Richard spoke to us about. Breathe into that, knowing that there is no other thing for you to be, because that is the only game in town. Let the highest of the divine that is you come out to play. And don't be afraid to look at that which you are ready to let go of, that which keeps you playing small. Don't be afraid to hold up the mirror and say, yes, I am ready to let that go. Yes, I am ready to play big. Yes, I am ready to be the fullness of who I am. I am ready to be a possibilitarian. Allow the truth of who you are to settle like flecks of gold in and through and around you. Allow that to guide your actions, your words, your thoughts. Let us sit just for a moment in the silence of that golden light, the truth of who you are. Absorb it in through your pores. Let your whole energy field resonate with that. Know that as your truth. And as you walk into the upcoming hours and days and weeks, carry the truth of you, and don't be afraid to to look at what you're ready to let go of, at what no longer serves you, at what stops you from being the fullest you can be. And carry that into the weeks and months and 40 days and beyond. And so it is. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Richard. Thank you, Reverend Nina. Are we doubly blessed? I have lots to think about. This is a time when we pause in our services to invite people to support our beloved community through their financial offerings. The wonderful activities and programs and services that we enjoy so much do depend directly on our financial support. We place ourselves right in the flow of life itself through our gifts as we give to our community, and then we enjoy the menu of offerings in return. Both financial gifts and gifts of service keep this community thriving. I want to share a Charles Fillmore quote on giving and receiving. It is necessary to give freely if we are to receive freely. The law of receiving includes giving. The knowledge that substance is omnipresent and that people cannot therefore impoverish themselves by giving, but rather will increase their supply, enables us to give freely and cheerfully. I want to express gratitude this morning for all gifts given to our online community who give through the website or through the live stream or our website. I want to give gratitude to all of you who give in whatever form. All forms of giving are accepted here, and we've now added, if it would be most convenient to use a credit card, we'll have an iPad station at the back at the Welcome and Information Station, and Michelle Van Eyck will be there to help assist you with that. Let's join in our affirmation for giving and receiving, and then I will let you know that we've changed it up just a little bit. Let's share the affirmation. I give freely and fearlessly, fulfilling the law of giving and receiving, and so it is. And this morning, rather than passing the basket, we're going to invite people to come on up to the front to either station here where we have an offering bowl. And for those of you who might be members of Giver's Circle, feel free to come up and offer your warm blessing into this bowl of gifts given.
All that I am, I offer at the altar of love. All that I am, I offer at the altar of love, in sweet surrender, in sweet surrender. All that I am, I offer at the altar of love. All that I am, I offer at the altar of love, in sweet surrender, in sweet surrender. All that I am, I offer at the altar of love. All that I am, I offer at the altar of love, in sweet surrender, in sweet surrender.
And on behalf of all of us, a blessing. May these gifts infused with love bless all who give, all who receive. And so it is. Thank you, ushers, for your help. We also pause for a moment at this point to recognize anyone who might be here for the first time. We are especially pleased when people come and visit at Unity in Lynnwood. We don't put people on the spot. Just a little raising of a hand will let us direct a special welcome your way. If you wouldn't mind raising a hand if you're new with us this morning. Thank you so much. And just to orient a little bit, there is a newcomer's information card that looks like this in the back of a chair in front of you. We also have a stay in touch card there. So if you would like to be on our mailing list, you can give us your contact information. It only means 2 emails a month for information and inspiration. We don't inundate you. As you leave the sanctuary, to the left, you'll notice a wall rack. There's a little DVD here. It's a welcome packet that also shows the kinds of activities that go on at Unity in Lynnwood. Please pick one of those up if you are interested. The Stay in Touch card can be given to anyone with an official-looking name tag. We also invite folks new with us to visit our gift shop, and we have something there for you if you just ask. A complimentary copy of Daily Word. It's the Unity small little pocketbook of affirmation and inspiration, a great way to start the day. And also, we have a newcomer's table in the Friendship Hall under windows over there. Someone will be stationed there. Will you be there again? No. Anyway, someone will be there to meet you and answer questions you might have about Unity or Unity in Lynnwood. So we're very glad you are with us. We're very glad all of you are with us, and everyone is invited to refreshments in the sanctuary and in Friendship Hall across from the sanctuary when the service ends. I do have a few announcements. As always, for details and registrations, please visit our welcome and information station at the back corner there. If you happen to be registering for an event online, you go to the calendar and click on that event, and that facilitates the process. The Celebration of Life service for Unity in Lynnwood co-founder Dennis Brandt is scheduled for 2 o'clock this coming Saturday, March 7th, and all are welcome. The local humanitarian outreach ministry is still accepting new or gently used household items for the Humble Design organization that furnishes homes for homeless families, formerly homeless families. Now they have their homes, now they need help getting them to look like a real home. Bring donations to the church this week during business hours or next Sunday morning. Unity in Lynnwood's Health and Wellness Ministry invites you to increase your energy and vitality with Dr. David Rameli on Sunday, March 15th at 12:30 p.m. Dr. Rameli is a naturopath and chiropractor who incorporates natural approaches with the latest scientific research. And he has authored a book entitled Perpetual Energy, which will be on sale that day. Learn how to use ancestral habits to help us not only survive, but thrive in a modern world. And I'm going to share that when we asked him how much it would be to have him come speak, he said, "I'll do that without charge." When we said, "How would you like us to arrange for you to get the proceeds from the books?" he said, "I'm very happy for the proceeds to go to Unity in Lynnwood." And I think this tells us something about Dr. Rameli, so I know there are many in our community who have loved him for a while. Interfaith at Unity in Lynnwood presents Spiritual Saturdays with Rabbi Ted Falcon on Saturday, March 21st at 11 a.m. Along with talented musicians, Rabbi Ted shares the universal teachings of the Jewish wisdom traditions in this monthly intentional spiritual gathering. Through teaching, song, and meditation, he co-creates an environment supporting our awakening to the more profound levels of our own identity. So please know that our ambassadors stand at the ready for questions you might have. You'll find an ambassador back at the Welcome and Information Station at the end of service. And all the information about what's going on here can be found in the printed program by visiting our Facebook page or on our Unity in Lynnwood app or the calendar page of our website at unityinlynnwood.org.
Thank you, Linda Babin. Thank you, Nancy Joy. Thank you, Matthew. Thank you, Dr. Jennifer Lovejoy. Thank you, Bev Templin. Thank you, Scotty. David Dada, are you still here? Thank you, David Dada. Have you even met David Dada? No, David Dada, show us your face, please. I mean, everybody knows Scotty. Scotty was here in the Eisenhower days, but we appreciate seeing you. Thank you for being here, David Dada. Thank you, Madison. Thank you, Bishop Kathy Chalmers, social media host Callie Gray. Life is good at Unity in Lynnwood next Saturday. Oh, I have not forgotten Nina. I can quite promise you that. Next Saturday, your clocks, they leap forward. Please do so that you are not early or late to this service. I never know which one. Do so that you might be right on time next week, please. Spring forward. That's always been a challenge for me. I have to ask other people if I'm hungry if I travel east and west. It's the most amazing thing. Is it time for me to sleep? I don't really know. I want you to know that I'm not afraid. Okay? I want you to know that. I'm not afraid. But as one who has an inbox, there are those who are afraid. They're afraid of the news. And my desire, my belief is that when we're afraid, my belief is that when we grieve, I want us to do it together. I want us to do it together. So much of what we have done today has been a demonstration of that. For those who fear, come, navigate fear right where you should be in the loving embrace of your spiritual community. Okay? Thank you for your words on prayer. We close with a closing prayer. You know, I love what you said. Thank you for that. I've been known to say that we are always praying, and that what we call prayer is simply a moment of intentionality injected into the prayers that are already underway. It's a moment of elevation injected into the prayers that are already underway. The goal of prayer is not to have a momentary intentionality or elevation. The goal of prayer is for that moment of intentionality, that moment of elevation, to infuse the prayers of our everyday moments. It's to become the prayer. Boy, that was a lot of words to say. We will now do a closing prayer. We will engage in that moment of intentionality, that moment of elevation. And if there is any soul you would like to invite into it, just speak a first name now. And so let's begin by closing those outer eyes that would whisper partialities, that would imply limitation, separation. We close those eyes that we might yet again open the very spiritual eyes of us, the spiritual eyes of us that know of no such partiality, no such limitation, no such separation. We close the outer eyes of us, not that we would turn from the truth, but that we might know a higher truth. Could there be a better time to know a higher truth? So we close those outer eyes that we might open the very spiritual eyes to all that we know and hold God to be. We open the spiritual eyes of us to that base of all beingness and all possibility. We open the very spiritual eyes of us to a wisdom that is ample, yet again, to any sense of confusion, to a life that is without beginning or end, to a harmony that seeks only to express itself in this world of form through human hands and human hearts. We open to an awareness of sufficiency. We live in plenty. Do not leave this time of remembering when I reopen those human eyes, but I bring it forth. I allow it to become the lens through which I perceive. So it is that as we do so, we now lift our human voices in a new way, with a new boldness, with a renewed faith to speak these words of benediction. There is one power and one presence in, through, and around all creation. So we go forth as the eyes of divine love, as the tongues of divine wisdom, as the hands of divine sufficiency, and the bold and ready hearts of divine life.
May the long time sun shine upon you. All love surround you, and the pure light within you guide your way on. Guide your way on. Guide your way on.
What a privilege. How good it is to be, and how good it is to be together. I delight in your noble presence on this day and always. You leave with my deep love. You leave with my enduring gratitude. So let's close this time of communion, this time of celebration, simply by speaking together our words, and so it is.
So it is.
And so it is. Blessings on your week.